just ask everyone just to, okay, we're gonna get on with the show this evening, so to say. Good to see all your beautiful faces. Say that. That's for sure. Ah, Claudia, you made it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So, mastery of loving. What was the inspiration? What are we doing here? This is an inspiration that came to me because this is the conversation I like to be in. A coach came to me and said, what is the conversation you're a holder of and an attender of? And is it big enough? And I sat on that for about a year. And the reality is I tend to be about love. People know me as a therapist, as a coach, as a human, as a sister and daughter. That's what I'm about, is how do we heal through it? How do we understand it? How am I in relationship to love? How am I in relationship with you in love? And so I'm part of a breathwork class, and that is the inspiration. It was a request from my friend who is initiating this particular breathwork class, and I'm grateful to some of my breathwork classmates for being here tonight. And that is where this has all come from. And I decided to do it over our lifetime. So where do we learn love? We learn it in our childhood. We learn it in our adulthood, but it starts in our core. And that's really what I did the 6 months. Why am I doing this over time? Because that's how we learn love, is over time, over experiences, over developmental milestones, so to say, through life, through loving, through learning, through connecting. And that's where I am with this course. And so that's a little of the inspiration that has come. And I recognize I still have my music, my playlist playing. So I'll get that off. And that's where this has come from for me. So with that being said, I've lost my participants. But, this is the great thing about technology. We'll find our participants again, I'm sure, somewhere in this Zoom world. Yeah, see, I knew there would be. There may be a time that I would find it. So why are we going here? Last class, we started with the roots of childhood. We looked at, this classic framework around attachment. And that's really what I wanted to continue. All right, let's see if I can get this moving now. I'm getting my cursor. That move, there it is. Why 6 months? It's because that's how we learn to love ourselves, is over time. And that's really where I filmed it. Is going to be from January through June. It's the third Tuesday, of every month at 7:30. Love to meet you here. I will send you reminders once you sign up, so you will always have the opportunity to continue to join us. First class, we talked about attachment styles, right? Because it's so common in our language right now. Talked about the 4 different types. I always say to my clients, we're all on a continuum. Right? If we think of secure at the head of the ship, we're moving in and out based on childhood experiences and adult experiences. Right? We have disorganized, we have avoidant, and we have anxious. But we're always moving towards an element with us. We always have that. We're connected to source. We always have an anchor within us. So we talked about it from that place, and then childhood experiences. Where did we come up with these styles of relating to each other and to ourselves? And how that then becomes a pattern. Where do we see the patterns? Like we talked about enmeshment, where there's no boundaries in our families. And we did some practice around self-compassion and inner child work. So we will continue a little of that, but I want to get into the juiciness of adolescence, because this is the time when we're pushing against to find who we are. And there's a lot of great movies about it. There's a lot of great, I'll say, archetypes or inner aspects, if you do inner family work, so to say. So that's what we'd like to look at this evening, is some of those things. But tonight's goals, we're going to look at healing the inner child into the adolescence, because adolescence is a critical point of individuation. And I think that's important. Where do we go with any attachment learning, shaping of our self-worth, our independence? And how do we look at reparenting? As anyone who's on this journey, it is a lifelong experience. We often call it the spiral. It's an ascending spiral. We're going to keep revisiting things until we lose some of our charge and our intensity around that. And then, of course, I always want to leave you with practical tips on how do we embody and integrate. Having 2 hours with me, love it. This is about what we do outside the class. So I'm really hoping that there's also some tools you walk away with tonight that really help the journey. So I know everyone may be on mute. But I'm just wondering if anyone wants to come off mute and ask or tell us, what is one reason you're here tonight? Is there anything that brought in any curiosity for you? Something you might want to learn? Anybody willing to share? Come off the screen. Tell us why you might be here tonight.
I'll go.
Thank you.
This is Hal,
Hey, Hal.
and I've been doing work on my inner child work and reparenting myself now for actively for the past 2 years, building a new relationship with my inner child and creating the safety and stuff that I didn't feel as a child for myself.
Thank you, Hal. I look forward to hearing a little more about your journey, and I'm hoping some tonight resonates. Great. Anybody else want to?
I'd love to contribute. I love you, Claudine,
Same here.
and you hold such sacred space for the injured child. And like you said, there's a spiral always happening, and hearing different tools or hearing it from other people. I mean, just creating the space is always helpful to help create the clarity and the forward motion that we all try to accomplish. And that's
Yep.
why I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you being here, everyone. You could have been anywhere tonight. So I'm really grateful. Anybody else? Before we keep moving? It's a lot to cover. I thank you for being here because I do recognize Tuesday night could be doing anything, relaxing, some great series out there right now, or staying warm, depending on where you are in the country. I just want to share a little bit about who I am. You know, I started in psychotherapy at a really young age. My father, divorce, it was like, we're going to go talk about our feelings. And then I had the gift of moving into a really large family. And it really changed dynamics. So for me, there's always been an interest, like what brought me to this line of work. I've been, someone involved with the human behavior design for 32 years as a professional, right? 57 years on this planet, and some way interacting as a psychotherapist, as a coach, new to add breath work to that, many spiritual practices. So that's what brings me here, because I am always about, is there something more I get to let go? Is there something more I get to love myself? So let's see what we can come up with tonight as we go through this journey together. I did this on this class. I didn't last. So this is what I want to say. Everything is confidential. I have your faces on a different screen honoring who you are. This is recorded. It will be shared. I want to ask everyone to use empathy. This is not a place to give advice, but listen with neutral ears. And what you put in is what you get out. So I really thank those who already have shared and encourage everyone else to also, so that you can continue to get value from it. Be heard, be witnessed. That's what we're here for, right? Curiosity over judgment. So make this, what you want to get out of it tonight. And I hope to give you some guide rails to also explore. To give you a framework of the two places I'm thinking of tonight. Inner child, finishing that off, right? 0 to 10, of course. I'm going to go with 11 to 18. Anybody here knows that we're now considering adolescence to 26. Holy crap. Parents used to think, I'm done at 18, man. I'm done. Well, we have found the brain is continuing to develop to the end of the 25th year. So, right, cause and effect, what people really understand. I'm not going to tell you they're not young adults, but for tonight's course, we're going to go with 18 brain, just for today. I think there's more to explore as we get into adult love and erotic love. We'll definitely be deepening our understanding about a lot of these things. So when it comes to children, this is the needs I'm talking about: safety, protection, validation, attunement, unconditional love. Adolescent, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Identity, dependence, peer acceptance, autonomy, emotional expression. Does anyone think there's something missing? Like, whoa, Claude, that's important. But I really also think there's another intense need that's missing here. I'm open to feedback.
What about conformity and so forth as adolescents in groups?
Excellent. Thank you, Hal. I see that as definitely one of the milestones. I connect it to dependence and identity, right? Because conformity is I go along with to fit in. Belonging is I own my identity. That's how I have it. I'm not saying I'm right, but let's hold that there, though, for conformity, because I think that's a vital piece that we're going to explore tonight. Because that either deepens a wound for an adolescent or gives them more independence and liberation. Anybody else think there might be anything missing that we want to just bookmark for right now? I'm going to move ahead.
On inner child, I was thinking of nurturing.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Nurturing. In my head, a little in the emotional attunement. So if I'm nurturing you, I'm not, and I'm sure we can all identify with parents who are saying, you don't need to cry. You don't need to cry. But the nurturance would have been, are you okay? That to me is also attunement. But I hear that. And it may not be the same, Susie. So let's talk about that when we get into the child in the next slide. Okay. And then,
Sorry to interrupt there. The thing I notice is that somewhere, and I think it may be in the inner child, somewhere there's a loss of wonder, transformation of imagination. I don't know what you would refer to it, but there's somewhere in that transition is the sort of external stimuli to quell one's imagination and the eventual end of the illusion of the Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, yada, yada, yada. It feels like there's something in the, I don't know if I want to call it loss of innocence, but there's something that feels like that happens within that shift. That seems to me kind of critical to how one is shaped and then how one's sort of self-view is shaped in each of these places.
Well said. I appreciate coming from someone who's also embraces your creator energy as a creative. I completely agree with you. I think it's a little bit what Hal was also speaking to. So conformity, we lose our wonder and our uniqueness. We kind of almost squelch it, blend it to fit in and not allow sometimes to be the one who goes, oh my gosh, in a group of everyone else doing this. I want to hold that as we move into this, because I actually really agree, even if we go into secure environments, the secure environment for a child is it is okay to explore. So they are going to go out and touch everything. They're going to be in wonder because that's how they foster not just their creativity, but their sense of trust, their sense of understanding their environment. Oh, hot, cold. They gain their sense of agency, right? When they have the ability to move about in their world. So I think safety, we hear it so much in relationships as adults. It starts here. Was I given a secure environment? Was I given the permission to say, it's okay, go, and I will wait for you here. I'm here to receive you. I'm here to also tell you where there's danger, where there's fun. I'll open the door for you. But right, Nick, there at times in the cost of getting along in the classroom, we need everyone to conform or to go along with. So really a critical place. This is a place where the child does start to figure out where they are in comparison to everybody else, whether they start and I start. I think that's an important place to be thinking about. In our first class, we did an inner child meditation. I will share that tonight as well as give it to you as part of our replay. I am someone who follows someone named John Bradshaw. He's been dead for many years. He was born in this, his rise to fame was in the 80s around championing inner child, talking about shame. But I still don't think anyone has done the work around the family system the way Bradshaw did. So I will give you the inner child. But if we choose to do inner child work and create a secure environment, our responsibility is we get to go back and continue to nurture that child. So if you choose a journey of inner child work, it's not, oh, I'm in distress. Damn it, I should have loved on that kid. It's, am I going and attending on a regular basis? Whatever you say is, yeah, I'd like to visit every week, every day. It's the last time you asked your inner child to go shopping with you. It's the last time you said, go, you pick out the movie versus our adult persona. You may end up in, who knows, in a Pixar movie, right? That ability to explore is rooted in our childhood, in a safe environment, a secure environment where we know we're protected and taken care of. It also is the validation. So when I go through these, I want you to also think about where are these in your life now as an adult, right? Because the secure environment lets us continue to explore because I'm grounded here. Validation. I'm someone who can say, I can do well without expectations, and the need for validation is still alive in me. I know that because I didn't get it in my childhood. there is a place where I had to come to terms with what was I doing to get it. So, right, validation is so important because it allows the child to get feedback and information about themselves. You're moving in the direction of, yes, I believe in you. I want to encourage you. I want to build whatever you're up to. Share your feelings. Tell me about your dreams. Are we getting that? And are we often seeking it now as an adult in our relationships, wanting feedback, wanting people to say you're good? Now, that's part of growing up and as being an adult. Often we're farming out our validation to other people. Where does that start? Here. Just want to just drop these seeds. Because again, we're going to be talking about how this shows up in our adult and our erotic relationships when we don't have the foundation here. I think just as important, I had unconditional love here. And I want to tell you, I changed it because I sat there and I was like, I've been a therapist for 32 years. And I would tell you the majority of my clients, including me, have never experienced unconditional love except with spirit or source. If you believe in that, not everyone does. So I will tell you, I have many clients who have never experienced it because it's a real struggle in human interaction, even from our parents. So I wrote down the impact of accepting love. Like, to me, all accepting love, whoever you are, I'll accept that. Maybe that is unconditional. Maybe one of you have a different word for it or a different way you see it. But the more that we are given that permission that we are okay for who we are as whole and complete, we're not going to seek that in other things or in other people. Majority of us we had the foundation for that as a child. So just thinking about that, like, where were we told about our body? Where were we told about our intelligence as a child? Was it fostered? Anybody here want to share? Like, did you experience yeah, man, I had a secure environment. I was able to explore and learn to trust my limits. I got the validation that, I didn't need to do anything to be loved. I was just loved. I'd like to share those examples. I'm not saying I never had them, but it wouldn't be my strong point. I would say I had a lot of conditions around these things in my childhood. Anyone here want to share one of their experiences? I'd be in the thought about it, because the other ages that we want to talk about, right, was when we go into the adolescence. But this is really the same, a different way of looking at it. Our early childhood experiences, we kind of get attention because of how they manifest. Right? The acting out kid in school, the one who could never sit still. Like, we start to get the labels because there's something that happened. We responded to what was given or not given. And then our behavior was what it was focused on. Stop talking. Stop moving so much. Why can't you stop being? I was actually told to stop being curious as a child. I touched too much and I asked too many questions, according to my stepmother. So she laughs now and she's like, of course you became a coach and a psychotherapist. These areas start to become what gets recognized. And often it becomes the negative view the child internalizes. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but I thought I talked too much, so I lost my voice. I was asked to not speak as much so my brother could talk more and ask more questions. Right? And what came up for me is I lost my voice until I was in my 50s. I didn't take the mic. I didn't stand up and ask the question because I didn't want to take up that much space. And if anyone can relate to any of that. As you look at your life now, do you recognize there's a place that you're still finding your fullness and owning your wholeness when it comes to a place that started earlier in your life? Anyone willing to share anything?
Elaine,
You put it?
Just unmute and speak. Don't worry about putting your hand up. Unmute.
I can't see everybody. So I have to ask you to unmute yourself and share, because your input is so
okay.
Thank
you. Thank you all. I was trying to unmute it. I've been having trouble today. Well, probably like most everybody. Well, some of the examples you gave, Claudine, about, being quiet. I had found out many years later in life that both grandfathers on, mother and father's side were alcoholics. And my father, those people came from the old country, like Turkey and Armenia, and they were very rigid raising my father and his siblings. So when we came along, you didn't speak until you were spoken to. My father was extremely suppressive. I mean, he wanted all of the control in the household. And, there were 5 of us girls, and we were, supposed to learn how to cook and clean and have babies. And so I think that might have been in some ways we were rebellious, but not enough to where, I mean, we were all afraid of my father. So yeah. And there was a condition on getting love. You had to do what was expected or wanted. And then
Yeah.
it was crazy, just crazy.
And I appreciate, thank you, Elaine, for sharing, right? Because what you're sharing is also normalizing all of us. We're told what to do. And now we have the phenomenon, I'm just going to label this people pleaser. We didn't think about that. Like, sure, my mother's a classic people pleaser, but that term wasn't around. But it was, what did you do to survive? So you had some form of connection with your primary caregiver. And that's what we all learned is what's the rules I have to follow? What do I have to do in order to get the love from somebody who may have also been not attuned to us, not allowing our wonder? Thank you. I really appreciate that share. That shaping, think about that. If we were doing what we were told as a child, conforming, right? I'm one of two, but I'm the youngest of seven in a larger family system. You're doing whatever you have to do to keep that ship afloat. Let me just tell you. Where does that happen though when I go into my adolescence and my relationships? Do what I have to do to keep everything afloat. So I'm just going to say that because, right, of course, I became a psychotherapist looking at needs. Right? Again, just patterns when seeds were dropped. I took hold of them because I got a certain response, as did all of you, from your caregivers. Negative or positive, whatever word we want to call it, we got some feedback that if I do more of this, I'll get this. And we followed it. We followed it into the next big place, which is our adolescence. I want to touch on this really briefly. I've never seen this before until I was putting this class together, but I've certainly have been a therapist to adolescents for many years. And we know this is about autonomy. This is about how do I individuate from my parents. My field of work for 25 years is in the field of adoption. So we were looking at some of these trends before adoption took place, as well as in adolescence. Who am I in relation to? Yes, to my parent, who maybe my birth parent, or could be my parent through adoption. But right, we look at skin color, we look at, political traits, our music, my dress code compared to what you want me to do. This is where we start to try out different things, start to break some rules, maybe start to look at our bodies differently, start to have changes in our body. So where we start to decide where our relationships outside the family have a different importance than the families. If anyone can relate to that, right? We start to learn about our identity. I have a client who said to me, I never knew my color until I was a teenager because they lived in communities. She didn't see the fact that she was Korean until she got into high school. And then it became obvious she was different from everyone else. So that's really an interesting world experience at 14. What was that? Jennifer, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, Claudine. Hi, ladies, men. I'm Jennifer from Santa Monica, and I so relate to that because I was adopted when I was a baby, and in my family, I was always told that it felt like there was something wrong with me because of what you're saying. I had my own mind, my own speech, my own heart. So I completely relate, and my family have their Irish, English, Italian, Scottish, blonde hair, blue eyes. And I didn't know I was adopted into a very homogenous culture in the middle of nowhere. And I didn't know I looked different until what you said. Yeah. Right. Someone said in school, they all held hands. And they were like, everyone do this. And so I came home and told my mom that, and she started crying, who did that to you? Because I just thought I looked like my family.
Yes. And can I ask you, when they did that in school as a child, were you pained by that? Or did you feel like, oh my God, everyone wanted to belong and look like me? I'm just curious if you remember.
Well, it didn't hurt me because but I came home, but if everyone does that, you go blurry, right? So I go, why is she doing that? It didn't hurt my feelings, but my mom was crying when she asked, how was your day? And I go, do that. How so-and-so wants to know how I see. And that's when my mom started crying, because she's like, who told you that? And so I was always, but I've had to deal with a lot of, you know, outside ways is what you're saying. So I thank you, and I feel like I'm meant to be here. And sorry
Thank
for
you.
my tardiness today. Yeah,
That's
thank you.
okay. Thank you. But I appreciate that. It either comes up as Jennifer shared, as, you know, a natural occurrence, or there is some distinctions made, right? We do start to separate the boys on that side, the girls on that side. We have our first dances. We have our first sexual feelings. Oh my God, they may not be, I'm attracted to the opposite sex. Maybe I'm attracted to my girlfriend. Like, all this is occurring. And do we have a place to go back to that is secure, meaning we're getting validation? It's a secure, safe place that lets us explore. Are we having attunement? We're getting encouragement, nurturing. Right? As Susie said, like, wow, are we allowed the wonder? Or are we having the conformity conversation? I need you to fit in. It's easier for us. Can't you just be like your younger brother? Why do you always have to ask? Why do you always have? This is a natural place where children or adolescents are naturally going to start to feel the difference. And they want to be psychologically now belong to that group. So if I didn't fit into this group, meaning my family of origin, what do I need to do to fit in here? Doesn't mean it actually happens, but that's what they're seeking, is a sense of belonging. Do all of our skin colors feel the same? Are all of our dads driving the same kind of cars? Again, thinking about what is that like for the individual? What experiences are they having? Are they having one that gives them a confirmation? You're good as you are. You don't need to do anything. Welcome to the, you know, the group. Or are they learning more conditionality? Just want us to think about that. So I put this here because this is exactly what the class is going to be. We're going to have an opportunity to do a little of this with yourself and as a group. Is really, where's it go? So if I'm struggling with self-worth, was I neglected in my childhood? So I could use a lot of these things, right? Like when we think about our adolescent wounds, right? Where did they start? Not fitting in. Often we're not getting the validation that we fit into our childhood, in our family of origin. So then, right, then where do I go as I become an adolescent? Will I give up my identity and just become like the crowd, or will I become really rebellious to stand in a distinction from? Right? Here's an example of, right, if I struggle with neglect, meaning my needs aren't being attended to, I struggle with self-worth because what's the message? Wasn't I important enough that you would check in with my tune, like with my needs? Right? We often see that as the foundation of an anxious attachment, someone who's going to need, right, that reassurance because of inconsistent caregiving. So in our adolescence, we may see that anxiety, and later on, we're going to see the need for perfectionism or to be reliant on others. Tell me what to do. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just going to be in like, what were some of your early childhood? I don't ask you to share them right now. You don't ever have to, but the patterns are there. Some of them could have been broken by now, and some of them may not have any charge, but they're still there. You know that they're a part of your life. So we're going a little further.
I was going to say, if you're wanting things, I am also adopted. And I have always had at my core the belief that I was a piece of garbage thrown out at birth. And I have gotten past that, but it's still in there. I recognize all the time in my self-worth.
I appreciate that, Hal. And can I ask you, are you allowed, do I have permission to kind of dig a little deeper with you?
Sure.
Knowing that was an early working model for you, right? I'm a piece of trash. Do you now look back and see how that may have influenced choices you made? Relationships you nurtured or didn't nurture or didn't even allow?
Lots of stuff in there. I don't know. We have the time for all that, but
well, just tell me one pattern that you noticed. I'm a piece of garbage. What did that limiting belief then create in your life? If we look back earlier,
I, for lack of a better term, prostituted myself to make people want me to be around because they could use me and abuse me, and that then they would maybe consider me to be a friend or someone to have nearby.
It's a powerful word, and I really appreciate you using it, and prostituted myself. I don't know if people can identify with that. This is not always a sexual connotation. It's the overgiving of myself, my selflessness. That's how I heard it, Hal. Is that right? Like disregard for yourself and your well-being. Just gave and gave.
anything I could do to have a friend or do it. And it also worked into conformity. I wouldn't rebel against conformity because I'd be afraid of being ostracized and put outside.
Of course, it is a pattern that I continue to look at in my life. So I really appreciate you even bringing that up. Right? I watched my mother, I call it prostituting. Right? She married a man because the financial instability of being a single mother was too intense. So she married a well-off man financially, but at a very heavy cost of peace, cost of abuse. It was a crazy lifestyle. She had no idea on the outside what was on the inside. And so in the end, I learned how to give myself away for something that seemed shiny, like a diamond or gold, and there's nothing there. It's really empty in the end. That's a painful place to be. So I could see that from my childhood to my adolescence and to my adulthood, where I could finally confront that pattern. So thank you, Hal, for bringing that up. But think about it. I don't know if anyone else can relate to this. I'm a woman of weight loss. So at 250, 300 pounds plus as an adolescent, I got much larger as an adult. I know how I was bullied. I know how I was heckled. I know how I was teased. It didn't matter what the hell I did. The grades, the good kid, the good girl. I could not protect myself from the assault. So that pattern got deeper for me, that I will do more for you to like me in the hopes that you will overlook and not pain me about my body. This is all adolescence. As a kid, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about not fitting in, or, oh my gosh, now we're in high school, we have to go run and do the president's, fitness test. We used to have to climb ropes and do push-ups a certain amount. And think of that. So that childhood pattern, I'm still attending to that pattern as an adult, but it doesn't have the same intensity. It's not there as a wound any longer, but it started very early in life, right? Not getting validated, not being seen,
I
right?
just wanted to add that I did a combination of what Hal did and what you did. In addition to that, I felt like I was disposable in the sense that my needs weren't met, in terms of, like, there was abuse in my past too, but I said something, it was just ignored. So I learned that I couldn't trust anyone to take care of me. I learned, all the stuff about not being good enough, for me, fat equals you're stupid, you're lazy, you're a piece of trash, pretty much.
Please, Josh.
And,
Yes.
my family was ashamed of me and embarrassed of me, pretended not to know me. I mean, the whole nine. It just made a huge impact. Me being able, I can remember this, I asked this one girl on camp to sign my autograph book. And she was such a piece of POS to me. She wrote in my autograph, I ought to laugh, I ought to cry to think you want my autograph. Like, don't you have any respect for yourself? You're asking me, who abused you and abused you and abused you this whole summer. But I wanted friends so badly that I was just willing to, I tried to buy friends, I give things that I got as presents away. I made myself do above and beyond so I could a little.
Thank you, Susie, for sharing that. But you're right. When we're not treated as value, we're not going to treat ourselves as valuable. So it's no surprise that you would ask someone who harmed you so much, right, to be included. That is what that's what the child's looking for. We don't get it there. Then we go and we'll do anything again. We're going to try the same or maybe new coping skills. Like, can you let me in? Can you let me in this time? Thank you. That's a great example. I think of how many people here, I don't know if we have athletes, but athletes too have to fit in, and people think it's glorious. Oh my God, you're the superstar quarterback or the pitcher or the catcher of the team. Right? But there's such a cost of conformity to be and show up, and there's discipline and mindset, but at a cost. Just thinking about it starts really early on. If we're not getting validated, we're not being valued, seen, and heard. How does that now show up? And I really would like to take us into a small group activity, if everybody's up to it, right? Where we're going to map out what is a childhood injury or message And how is that still, how did it show up in my adolescence? I'll show you some examples. I think the easiest way to do it, if you have a piece of paper, right, you'll be in a group of like 4. If people just kind of talk about it, like, yeah, I noticed this and this, like, right, like Susie, thank you for sharing that. If you've come from a place of having no value, then wow, what did I do to, gain it? How I was a piece of garbage. That internal messaging saw the, the overgiving and the prostituting. Just would like us to map out some of the things that we saw. I'll give you an example. I have it right here. So if we look, right, sometimes having an emotionally unavailable parent, we're going to seek validation. We're not going to be able to be alone as well. It's not as comfortable. We're ignored. We're going to overcompensate, as a child being ignored, overcompensate and people please, seeking others' approval. So that kind of, what do I notice of this? Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that? So let's wait. I went too far. So here's where it gets pretty for us. There we go. I'm like, how am I going to get to my breakout rooms? This is great. I apologize as I learned some of these new techniques. I have to say, things have gotten really different in Zoom world in the years since I have last. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. All right, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we have 27 people here. So you'll get a number on your screen. I would just ask everybody, to say yes and go into all of the rooms. And I will give you about 10 minutes. Ask everyone to do that, and I'll stop in. Anyone has any questions, they can come back out. You just ask everyone to go into one of those rooms. Tammy or Robin. Hi, Kimberly. I don't know if everyone can get in there. I would have you start, everybody, and you have 10 minutes. Some people may not be joining, so you could start now. Thank you. Where are you from? Tammy? Oh, hold on. I have to unmute you. I can only ask you to unmute. I can't unmute you.
Okay. I'm from Indiana.
Indiana. Well, welcome. I'm happy to have you here tonight. What attracted you to the class?
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Oh.
I just need some inner child feeling really bad. I think it's affecting my relationships really badly. I've been left twice now. Fiance after 13 years and husband after 23 years.
Okay.
I can't take too much more. I need to do something.
Yeah. Understand and break the patterns. And that is so hard. I mean, right? We could see it so clearly when we leave, but when we're in it, it's like, I tend to think sometimes we're like drowning and swimming at the same time.
I know. I just, there's so many things I see now that I did not see.
I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Let me just give them a message that we have another 2 minutes. 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. 2 minutes.
My sound was sort of cutting in and out. I gave them 10 minutes to just read.
Okay.
Is that what it was? Or were we
it's fine. I mean, you could think about it for yourself, even if you have a piece of paper or journal. Even here is like thinking about, oh, what is that childhood pattern that's still here? And that's really possible. Just to keep it in mind, and I'm sure people will share, and I will bring those charts up. There seems to be some universal patterns, as we've heard tonight, people feeling so deeply undervalued, like garbage or, useless. So thinking about that. So I think there's, parents who are controlling, parents who are so unattuned, or parents that are absent due to many reasons, drugs and alcohol, but medical reasons or work, economics. Some of it's not intentional, but it scars us. Right. Yeah. I appreciate that. Okay. We're gonna close up these rooms in a few moments. See how that worked, because this is the first time I've ever done breakout rooms. Never too old to learn new tricks, I guess they say. All right. Welcome back. Thank you for all coming back, slowly but surely. All righty. So I am going to ask some questions about what was learned. And I just ask everyone to stay in curiosity, being open to what everyone's sharing. I recognize the vulnerability here. Does anyone want to share a pattern that surprised you, or pattern you shared with someone else? Anything, right? If there's any adaptations from adolescence that is still in your life today, I'll certainly share.
What I was going to tell you, I didn't hear you because my audio was really muffled and awful. That's why I got here so fast, and I didn't know that's what I was supposed to do. So I will listen to everybody share, though.
Sure.
I will do the next thing.
Thank you, Tammy. So who wants to start to our sharing off? Anything that's
I will say this. This is Hal. We didn't have 10 minutes. And
no.
if you want help with breakouts and stuff like that, I do this all the time for other groups. So I can help you with this if you want help. Just co-host me and tell me.
Okay, I appreciate the offer, Hal. I'll take it. Does that mean we didn't get into the groups?
We were in our groups, but we heard you talking over the top of us for part of the time.
So sorry.
It's
Okay.
okay. Good. We're good.
This is the
Okay.
part of the learning. This is what growth is about.
It is. I love it.
Also, when you asked us to click, myself and another, we clicked immediately and we didn't hear the prompt.
So did anyone have the opportunity to work on the pattern of childhood to adolescent?
I assumed that's what you were asking, so I started to share, but my partner wasn't able to share because I don't think we had 10 minutes as well. We started hearing you speak over.
Okay. Shall we take a few more moments and go back? Is there an anonymous like raise their hand kind of thing? I'm more than happy if people feel like they would like to have a little bit more opportunity. I'm seeing head bobs.
Yeah.
Okay. So Hal, I don't even know how to make you a co-host.
You click on my name in the participants list on the 3 dots.
All right.
And on the 3 dots, you should be able to, it should give you the chance to make me a co-host.
Oh, look at that. Did not even know any of that. On the 3 dots.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see that. Make host. It would change it to you though.
Well, you could make me host, but I don't think you want to do that. I just think you want to make me co-host.
I don't see co-host. I only see host. Okay. Well, I'm going to try this again. We're going to go to breakout rooms.
Yep.
I'm going to open them all up and see what happens. You get an invite. Thank you.
I'm seeing the invite.
And I won't talk. Well, welcome back. I hope that worked better. Yes. Okay. Thank you for the heads up, Soli. Is that how you pronounce your name? Soli?
You nailed it. That's perfect. Thank you. That's actually an abridged. My legal name is Solange. Almost nobody gets it right, so I go with Soli when I'm in like general group conversations.
Thank you. Thank you. So my question, anyone surprised by a pattern? Anybody notice maybe a pattern from your adolescence and childhood that's still alive and well? I will keep some of these up. Please, Elaine, Jennifer.
Okay. Somebody had heard earlier said maybe it was Hal just said to jump in. Even at my age now, I find myself, in particular, going through COVID, the isolation was devastating. Well, it was for everybody and everybody handled it differently. But I still have so much anxiety from COVID that I can't stand to be home by myself. I'm out every day. And it's becoming so unmanageable that, I have piles of paperwork everywhere. And but the pleasing others, and I'm just finally realizing how much of a people pleaser, but breaking that pattern is difficult because I let go of a number of friends whom I felt were toxic, for example. And now I've lowered how many people that I engage with, and I feel abandoned. I've abandoned myself, and people aren't keeping in touch. It's such a different societal, how people behave and what's happening isn't the way I grew up. I always try to keep in touch with people and see how they're doing and whatnot. But many people that I even worked with for 30 years, poof, they disappeared. COVID happened and the office closed down, the college closed down. I knew hundreds and hundreds of people for almost 40 years. And then all of that it was like being thrown in prison.
So I want to unpack it because I'm hearing childhood patterns mixed with a global shift.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right?
I do tend to, yeah.
Right. So I'm hearing both, right? But you're noticing is right? Whatever abandonment had you feel that way as a child, knowing you don't like to be alone, I hear how it gets exacerbated when we go into a forced shutdown, a forced isolation.
Yeah.
So if that's one of our wounds as a child is fear of abandonment, or we had such inconsistent caregiving, I can't imagine how it would spiral for you, right? Like I'm more the introverted energy. I was like woo-hoo during COVID. I liked having small crowds around me, but right, my wound is not yours. I remember I'm the youngest of many in a family, so to me, isolation and like, oh, peace, not for you, right?
No.
And I'm going to say this about women. And it's a generalization. So Hal, you representing, and I don't know if Nick's still here, but the fact is women are also socialized to be selfless, to be givers, to continue. So we get not just the message, we get reinforcement. So like, of course we end up going with, how do I give of myself, right? To fill that hole, to fill the void. So thank you, Elaine, for
thank you.
sharing that.
I mean, a number of times I wanted to just commit suicide. I couldn't deal with the isolation. I mean, I have no family here. It's been 4 years and I'm still just having a lot of difficulty, but thank you, Claudine.
You're welcome. And I think what we interesting, I was in a session actually today where someone spoke about COVID in this forced isolation, which also empowered, if you remember, we had the most licenses filed with the IRS for new businesses during COVID, 54 million, right? And we got empowered. Employees were like, let's take our power back. And I don't want to give credit to the man. Remember, we had, I forgot what they called that, mass quitting, but there was a label for it in our society. And how interesting we're now, the spectrum's changed. And now we're going to 4 and 5 days back in the office. And people are rebelling against it. They are not, most employees are not pleased. Like, how dare you ask me to go back in? It's not about health anymore, but we also started to like having some of the distance and having control. I'd say when I move in, when I move out. So it's very interesting. I think the pandemic opens up our worldview a lot. So thank you. Sorry to go on a tangent. Anybody else?
That's
Jennifer.
okay.
Jennifer, I can't hear you. You're
Unmute.
you're not muted.
Okay. My pattern started from, as you all heard, that being adopted. I'm working with a relationship coach right now because, as Claudine said, I thought I had my life in order and together, but it's not until 52 that I'm like, oh, my relationship patterns are like following me, right?
Yeah.
I thought I did all this personal growth work, therapy, and this and that, but I learned that, so being adopted, and then my dad suddenly died. I was born during a war. Then my dad, the parents who adopted me are the only parents I know. And he suddenly died and no one talks about it. With a relationship coach is teaching me that you were adopted and no one let you grieve your own family, your real birth family. They just put you in there and this is how you're going to do it. And my whole life, all my relationships are, don't you understand what I'm saying? Don't you understand what I'm feeling? And I go, no, my mom was really in tune with me. No, it wasn't, because it was in tune with what they wanted for me, not what I was actually really feeling from losing the family. So that has been a big awareness for me. And then losing my dad at 10, and no one talking about it, acting like life moves forward. I learned everyone was in their own grief, but my family and my 3 brothers, my mom became extremely controlling. So I've only had 4 long-term relationships. They're all very controlling. So it's just a very deep-rooted pattern that I am committed to breaking, because that's not loving.
Yes.
So that's what I thought. I chose these, they're not bad people, but we chose each other because I'm like, oh, this is a good fit. And it was only familiar pattern from childhood. And I always thought like, oh, my family loves me so much. Oh, these men who are jealous and overprotective and all these things loves me. No, it's like what you said, Claudine. I don't know if I know what unconditional love is besides my dog that I had for 19 years.
Yes.
So here we are. That's the deep pattern.
The pattern I'm curious if you see is right with two significant losses, right? The grief of losing your birth family, right? And then the grief of your father dying. I don't tend to use the word adoptive father, but right, your father died. So what is the stability? How do I believe in you're there for me? You're going to be there through thick and thin. We often see people who go, I don't know. I feel like I'm dating the same person over and over again. They're emotionally unavailable. They're not there. They're not attuned, right? So again, because we pick familiar, right? It gives us a sensation in our body that we go, oh my God, I recognize this. Oh, yeah, you recognize this.
And
Great.
two of them, one was for 17 years. He was there, and I always felt he was there for me. We had same values when it came to family and life and things like that, the outlook on life, but he wasn't there because he's a major alcoholic. So and then I was like, well, I don't want to be judgmental, you know, he loves me. But it was, I'm learning now that he was never there, you know? And then I carried all this guilt. It's been 10 years. I carried all this guilt for calling off the wedding 3 weeks before, but I just didn't see a future, but I loved him. But that's not love either. That was codependent.
Not at all. Not at all. Thank you, Elaine. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, Jennifer, I'm sorry. Anybody else would like to share like anything surprise them? Anything like, oh my gosh, this is still alive for me. It's okay. It's still alive. I'm still an accomplisher, still doing for love.
Is it possible that you can be repeating your mother's emotional state in a relationship? Like one thing that I'm absolutely aware that I have been repeating, and it could be my mother fell out of love with my father. It was very apparent my dad wasn't a very good guy, and she was actually very evolved for herself, really a very spiritually aware person, but the relationship was terrible. And I saw this struggle and I felt so sorry for both of them because they were in so much pain. So I've kind of like, and I had the same pattern, like I had the pattern where the guys I really liked never liked me. So I started out of not having my father's, attention. I started going for the guys who liked me. If the guy liked me, then I would be, oh, well, okay. If you don't like me, well, okay. And that pattern is still going on. Like I just got out of an 8-year relationship where I was chosen and I knew I was getting chosen. I even said, this is an Achilles heel for me. If someone really likes me and I'm not, but it's a very, very terrible thing to do because then I become the avoidant. I become the one that's always holding them back. So definitely it comes from child, but I'm not quite sure what the pinpoint exactly is.
Right. Chosen is also a great social media word. Like I'm chosen. And there's a lot of posts like don't chase, attract. Right. Because when we're chosen, it does feel special. Of course, I'm going to be taken care of. It creates an idea of fantasy and expectations or an illusion versus when we choose.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Something about being chosen is passive, like as if you choose me, it'll be safe. You'll attend to me.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not the equality. Like, what are you choosing into? Right. There's a passivity. Of course, you said yes, but I would say, right, breaking that pattern of what would it feel like for you to also be active chooser and not wait to be chosen?
Absolutely.
Because then you get to define and design the relationship you want, not be in default.
So many times when I did choose, I wasn't chosen back. So there's that safety. So I run to safety, but it's deep. And it
is. It's very. But this is a body of work. Breaking patterns or widening patterns, right, is a big piece of work of therapy and coaching. It is. When we want a new experience, we have to break the rut. And I will say this is all also wired in our brain. Right? There's neuroplasticity around this. We get used to, I say to my clients, you're used to making right-hand turns. So I pick people who are emotionally unavailable, very familiar to my family of origin, right? And I have that same feeling of not being seen and heard. I keep doing this, right? It takes a big effort and consciousness to shift my behavior. But let me just say, you have the ability at any age to make new choices. This is what we're used to. This is going to be driving on a flat tire for a while. But can you make new turns? Can you make new choices? We've seen our neurons when the new firing starts. A new path is actually literally created. Boom. But we're at it. And we're going to talk about that as part of the reparenting at the little latter part of this session. Anybody else feel like they want to share a pattern that they recognize or had surprised it's still alive?
Hi, my name is Nanjeen. I believe I have an anxious attachment, and I navigated and have placed work on that. My biggest thing now is sometimes when in dating, the last gentleman that I dated, he is an avoidant attachment, right? So then when it gets really difficult to try to maintain a communication when it's very hard for him to communicate. And then I'm saying, well, these are my feelings. And then now navigating whether or not, like knowing that I feel loved if I'm communicated with, or if I'm hugged or kissed or whatever. And then now questioning, okay, well, kissing and hugging and intimacy is all a part of a relationship, right? So how much of that is a part of my attachment? I mean, my anxious attachment in comparison to just wanting to experience those things.
Is there C, all the above?
Yeah.
I think naturally we want to experience that because it is a part of relating. And the other part is there's been a wound in your life or a pattern in your childhood and adolescence that has you, one, behaving in a way that you label yourself anxious attachment. So there has been somebody who was either inconsistent, who neglected some of your needs, right? So the need to be reassured, to be spoken to have quality time and connection is so super important to that part of you.
Right. Definitely.
But the familiar is an avoidant also acts like that person who kind of neglected you. That's what has us drawn, right? It is completely the moth to flame between the avoidant and the anxious. So we can deal with the relationship pattern. And I would tell you there's a body of work that you get to do to also talk and heal some of your childhood patterns, right? Because what happens is we take those patterns and we project them and go, you partner, fill the needs that didn't get met. And that's not our lover's job. No, the relationship can support those injuries or those triggers and traumas, but they're not going to heal those.
Right.
That's our work. That's our work.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
This is not an exhausted list here. And I know everyone had something on theirs, right? But recognize they're still here. There's no judgment on the fact that the pattern's here. It's more the curiosity of, oh, that's where it is, right? My family has grown a lot of uber independent people. We're a lot of, we call my brothers all called themselves the lone wolves, right? Part of that was we did have divorce. We had a lot of unpredictability. So we didn't trust, we didn't count on. It's like, I got me. I have some of that myself, right? Even the offer of how tonight I had an experience in my body that went, oh, I didn't get it right. I actually need somebody. And then there's, thank you, Hal. Thank you for being a safe space in offering. And where's my space to ask, right? So that I don't repeat my pattern. That is still very much alive in me. It's not out here. It's not running my life, but it comes up, came up tonight. Love it. It's a good piece of information. Thank you, group. I appreciate the opportunity to find a pattern that's like, oh, there you are.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into reparenting. We'll do an exercise together. Just want to speak a little bit about this. I don't think this is anything new that anyone has never heard of before, but reparenting really is how am I going to be in relationship to myself so I can change patterns, address my maybe met needs in my childhood. Right? This is what am I going to do for me and how am I going to interact with people so that I can have some reparenting done. Right. So I think one of the things that I notice the most in my work is the internal dialogue. Right. Anyone who's ever worked with me, and I know none of my clients, I don't believe are here tonight, I ask two questions in all of my intakes. What is a self-limiting belief that you live by as true? I've heard I'm too much, I'm a bother, I'm not wanted. I'm not enough. Like I'm not thin enough, smart enough. I don't know what, but there's always, and then that limiting belief becomes the dialogue, the inner critic. Right? All of us here, we've shared. Some of us are in breathwork class. We know our inner critic's voice. Right. So I will tell you that is one of the big transformational places. Can we change the way we have ourselves and treat ourselves? And am I committed for the long haul? This is not a one and done. I went to therapy. I'm good. I got this. No, we learn tools in therapy, in coaching that we apply. What is our daily medicine? So anyone who's in therapy with me or coaching knows what are the daily practices that fill your cup. This is not just manicures and pedicures and massages. What are my boundaries? What are my self-care practices? Where am I saying uncomfortable no versus a resentful yes? Big one for women and maybe for men too. But we often say resentful yeses when we really need to say an uncomfortable no, or vice versa. Right. So how does this show up for us? Right. What are we validating for ourselves? I'll share for a moment. I'm 57. I had my first website done 2 years ago, and I had to sit for my first photo op. I haven't had photos since high school. People knew me not to get me in pictures. If they did, I wanted my double chin covered. I had all these requirements. Don't touch this side of my body. It was crazy. But at 54, I think it was 54, when I got 300 and plus pictures of myself back from the photographer, it was the first time I could say I'm beautiful. It's 54. I couldn't hear it from anyone. I still struggle with that compliment. But when are we going to stop invalidating and start validating ourselves? Where can I give myself permission that my feelings are okay? The fact that I'm learning to love my beauty at 57 is still okay. That I am a safe person, that I can give myself safety and protection. So how am I what am I giving to me as my daily medicine, my affirmations? And I'm going to say over and over again, my boundaries. This is how reparenting can show up. This is just an example of how reparenting can show up. I will ask everyone if you could, maybe we'll share a few other things. If everyone can just give me just a little bit more time. Is there anyone who's I caught that? I think I got everybody. Okay. So self-validating. I don't know if anyone has any practices for this. People who know me know that my condo and my bathroom walls, and I'm looking around, are full of affirmations. I'll read you some right here. Let's see. I am love. I am light. Allow. Healing, trust, and love. Listen to the speaking of this year. These are my reminders. They're all over the place. Does this fit into the life I see for myself? Right? Where am I going to check in? I do it through visual. That's who I am. So I am someone who will have things around me. Right? I am very much an intense processor. I'd rather have a one-on-one conversation or a 3-on-1 conversation with intense sharing, spirituality. I get validated with like-minded people. I can talk about my relationship to source. I become a safe space. So I want to ask a question to everyone here. Do raise of hands, even on a screen, just raise your hand. Does everyone here have a lived sense of safety within their own body? Do you feel safe in your body? I appreciate that not everyone raised their hands.
Can you clarify what that means?
Sure. Great question. Thank you, Elaine.
Sorry.
So for me, what does safety feel like? So I often start saying, who do you feel safe with? Or where do you feel safe? So I'm going to tell you, I feel safe in this condo. I feel safe with certain people in my life, certain places. But I'll start here. How do I know I feel safe? Check in. My system is calm. I feel grounded. My breath comes with ease. I know I can respond to myself. I'll use words like I'm regulated. I'm a somatic practitioner, so I'll say I'm regulated right now. I have the capacity to fill my lungs and my gut. Take in a deep breath, feel secure, grounded in my legs, connected to the earth. I know I could take care of me in this moment. That's what I mean by lived safe. live sense of safety. I have me. Does that make sense? Does that explain it a little bit more? If it's not as easy to identify, think about somebody you're with who you feel safe with. What is that experience you're having within yourself? Check out. Do I have that when I'm by myself? Yeah, I feel like particularly very safe with like my brother Mark right now in our relationship. And we've worked really hard at that. I feel seen and heard by him. I feel like there could be space made for me. Right? Okay. Can I do that for myself? Can I take up the space I need? Can I validate myself? Again, does that make sense to everybody? Right. And of course, I'm going to say over and over again, are we looking at who am I? So that's exploration place. Who are my values? Am I living according to my values? That's part of our childhood. We had double messages. Eat everything on your plate. People are starving in other countries. Oh my God, look how overweight you are. Oh my God, you're so fat. Well, you just told me to do that. Right? You're a good girl because you did what I asked you to do. When I chose to do what I wanted to do, I was in our culture, I'm Arabic, we were often told shame. Right? You brought shame to our family. I trust you, Claudine, but do something and then you get a different experience. So that's what I mean. Are we giving ourselves permission to live in our values? Are we checking in? Are we exploring? What does that really look like? I'll move into we'll go into an activity for a moment. Let me just give you a few other pieces. I don't know if everyone here is doing some daily affirmations, if they have places or people they need to get clarity on your boundaries. This is how we reparent. Is there trust with myself? Is there trust with another person? Do I have to clean this up? This is how we do things to reparent, right? Am I changing my course? I'm used to being critical and saying, this wasn't good enough, or you didn't do that. Am I now acknowledging myself? Am I now able to recognize what I give and give myself that validation? These are the practices, right? I do it by keeping my word to myself. If I say I'm going to go work out, I get to work out, not because I just needed to do that thing, because I'm building trust with me. I had broken trust with myself. I'd broken trust having weight loss surgery, then gaining weight. I broke trust with myself for not telling people. I broke trust with all the years that I ate and hid what I ate. So, right, for me now, reparenting is I keep my word to myself. That's a real important part of it. I'm curious if anybody else has anything they would share that's part of their practices they want to share.
I try to do a meditation twice a day, but I usually only make once, where I really go within.
Great practice.
Yeah. And then like you said, if the inner is matching the outer, like I recently broke up in this relationship because it was just so painful to be in this painful thing, even though I had a lot of love, truly. But I feel so much more matched. I feel so much calmer because my insides and how I'm feeling inside is starting to match the outside. So like honoring what's really honoring me. Yeah. Which in turn honors him. But yeah, the inside matching the outside.
I love it. You bring up a real important point too, Kimberly, which is mindfulness. Mindfulness is one of those places that we can meet ourselves with love. When we think of the metta meditations, loving kindness meditations, meditation as an act is such a gentle, nurturing experience. It's always an invitation to be present to this moment. Look, to this moment now, up to this moment. What a beautiful gift, because most of us didn't have attunement and presence in our childhood. We can give that to ourselves through a practice. That's an excellent point.
I was saying earlier, my parents are deceased, so I know in spirit form they're healed. I personal belief. So I often bring them in, and their hands go on my heart, and my hand goes on top of them to forgive them, forgive their stuff. You know, and I think that's helping me too. So is that like you're talking about daily practice?
That's a great one. I absolutely thank you for bringing a keyword. And I see Claudia, your hand, you're off mute too. I wasn't sure if you're going to bring it. I think forgiveness is one of the best reparenting things we can do for ourselves and the world, by the way, because we say, I don't want to carry this anymore. I don't want to keep myself in prison. I forgive. So I don't have to be burdened by it any longer. They did the best they can. And we, all of us get to that on our own time, because there's a lot to release and grieve and give ourselves. I don't want to do any spiritual bypassing, like, let's jump. But right in the end, what is there to forgive? For they knew no better, but it didn't mean it doesn't impact us. So I love that mindfulness and the practice of forgiveness. Claudia, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I got my little morphed version of meditation and divination. And I I love trying every kind of tool that comes to me. And so I have a sound bed now that helps me just quickly jump
it's great.
into an altered state. And like you and like everybody's saying here is connecting to that higher self, like that spiral. What was interesting, what I wanted to share is it's a new level of calmness. It's like I didn't recognize, I thought I was good, and then, oh, here we go again. I recognized there was another layer of fear that I wasn't aware of. I thought I was at peace, but no, I could go deeper and greater. So it is like the endless onion, and why we, in my opinion, we have to keep up with the practices, because otherwise we're just going to stay stagnant at whatever level that we are. And so the discovery of going deeper with divination, which to me is meditation with spirit and the Holy Spirit, allowing it to flow, really had me connect to my inner peace and inner love. And that's all the strength that
you.
has been helping.
And you came up with a new word in that. I've never heard divination, but I love it. I love that. Meditation with the divine. Nicely done. Nicely done. Jennifer?
I wanted to add, okay.
Go ahead, Susie.
Oh, what I wanted to add, in addition to breath work, is I practice grounding a lot and allowing myself to stay in my body and feel the anxiety. Because I lived for a long time out here and didn't want to be here on earth at all. And so I spent a lot of time grounding myself. One of the things that I do is I set the timer on my cell phone, and like 3 or 4 times a day, and I'll just do that breath practice of start by your elbow and do a light trace up your hand and inhale, and then when you go down, exhale, and just do it for all your fingers, and then the way back. And you can do it once, twice, whatever, but realize how much it helps your whole day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. And, I could say for me, the idea of being outside my body was really, even at 360 pounds, 400 pounds, right? I wasn't here.
Right.
I was here. I was here a lot, and I was out here a lot.
Right.
So I am continuing to come back to integrate the upper and the lower, as well as the wholeness. So I really appreciate that practice. And I do it too through some somatic practices where I am actively shaking, dancing, touching. I'm often doing, right, like the bilateral hugs, again, to come back here, come back home. So thank you for highlighting that. Jennifer, you have something quickly you want to share? I can't unmute you. I can only ask you to unmute. There you go.
Okay. So my practice for the reparenting, I just go into, if I'm being triggered or I have a moment or I'm going into my head, I just pause and I ask myself, did you do it because you wanted to? Did you do it because you had to? Or are you doing it because you would love to? So that's when I'm having a moment and I'm outside, I don't trust myself or whatever. I just pause and I go into my heart.
Okay.
And then I'll say to her whenever because I'm learning how to step back and observe. And I just say, I say to her when I'm feeling anxious or, I'll say, oh, I believe in you. I see you.
Nice.
You've got this.
Yeah.
I want what you want. And because it's, coming from that kind of background where everyone was in control, and that's what I learned how to trust instead of myself. These are the 2 main practices that I can walk daily in. That really, I feel, helps.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder.
Can I add one more?
Questions? Sure.
Can I add one? Oh, okay. What I was gonna say is my automatic go-to is to say yes. And so what I've been, and just totally like not checking in with myself and seeing how I really feel about it. So now I always say, give me a chance to think about it. And I'll let you know the next day, a couple hours or whatever. And then I just sit with how I'm feeling instead of, oh, sure, I'll do it. Yeah. And then I feel it's used if it's not reciprocal. It doesn't have to be tit for tat, but, something that meets my needs too.
Yeah. I love that you're creating space for you, Susie.
Yeah.
You get to be the active decider versus the automatic response.
Right.
It makes me think of, I often joke and I'm a people pleaser in recovery, but I have two questions. Am I doing it for love or from love? If it's not, if it's not from love, it's not authentic. I'll use Hal's word. I'm prostituting.
Right.
We don't do it anymore. We do it anymore. Right. My other big question is, what is most loving for me? This moment, what is most loving for me?
Yeah, I really get to ask myself.
Yep.
How do I really feel about doing it? Yeah. And, when you listen to yourself, it gives you so much power. It gave me so much power,
Yep.
And it's like, I know that I can stick up for myself instead of, because the other thing that happened is they absolutely did nothing about it right in front of their eyes.
Yep.
And so it was like, I was invisible. So
isn't that ironic?
Yeah, and then I ate my way up to 500 pounds, being invisible,
Exactly.
and still invisible.
Right.
Yeah, no, right?
But you're not allowing that anymore. That's what I hear. How you're breaking the pattern is I'll stop to see me. I see me now. No longer am I invisible. Nice. Thank you for sharing those healing practices. One of, like I've jokingly said earlier, one of the healing practices also, I let my inner child pick out my TV shows sometimes. I'll go shopping. What would you like today? It's not my injured, right? Like we always think our inner child's just hurt. It's where our wonder is. It's where our curiosity, it's what is the world made of? Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? What? Go ahead, go touch, go play. That's very healing. One of the others is writing letters. And I'm sure if anyone's here been in coaching or therapy, right, is also writing letters. I know how many times I have said to my clients, right, depending on what we're moving through emotionally, that's what I invite us into for a moment. Even I know we don't have a lot of time left, but if you were to pick right now, do you feel you want to write to your inner child or to your teenager? I'd let you pick. Because if either one you choose is what does that age need? What does your inner child most need to hear from you? What validation or reassurance did your inner teenager need from you?
Hello?
Is there anything you'd promise? Hello? Sure, we just said that. Anything that you would want to make a promise to? Does everyone have 5 minutes more to just take a moment, either write a note on their phone, on a paper and pen? We know that neurologically, it works better, kinesthetic, to have a wiring emotionally. If you want to write a letter ever from your inner child to your adult, we use the non-dominant hand. I'm righty. But tonight, I'm going to ask you as the adult to write to your inner child. So again, I'm going to put on some music, just a few moments. Just what would you want to say? Let me give you 5 minutes. Just allow. Oops, may have not finished tonight. You may want to complete it later. Hal, I hope you got to hear the music in the end. But I would spend some time here. Include the promise of how you want to continue to support yourself. In the chat, I gave a few links. Again, for being here tonight, you will get a special guide that I made just for this class. You'll receive that in your link with a replay. But I also wanted you to see the John Bradshaw link, some affirmation links. Is there anything people would like to share about what you wrote?
I got an affirmation for you.
For me? All
Well,
right.
I think you'd like it.
All right.
And
Yeah.
it came out automatically. It was like, remember the labyrinth. You're never lost. You'll always find your way in and out.
Remember the labyrinth.
Because that's the difference, between a maze and a labyrinth. A labyrinth is just one direct path and it just goes all over the place. So we feel like we don't know where we're going, but it's not like a maze that has dead ends or anything. So, as somebody who's walked a lot of labyrinths, I'm like, remember the labyrinth.
All right. I like it. Wrote it down. Thank you. Anybody else come up with something healing? Anything surprise you? And that's the story of the note you just wrote to yourself. That's a great one. Letter writing is an intimate practice, but it's very cathartic. No one's going to read this but you. And sometimes people aren't ready to write to themselves because they have someone else they need to write to first to clear this space. If you do, then I would encourage that for you. It's to a parent who's with us or no longer with us. If it's to an older version of ourselves, I would release that. What can you forgive, even in your for you? What past acts?
I had done inner child work before, but not adolescence. That was new.
There
That
you go.
was a whole new thing that we'll be
Great.
thinking more about. Yeah.
Great. I'm glad. Thank you, Kimberly.
Yeah.
I've never actually spoke about it. I've been a therapist to children and families for 32 years, but not my specialty. Children have been more, but there's no doubt once you're a child therapist, you become an adolescent therapist naturally because they age and come back. And when the field of adoption, as a therapist who's always in the community, you want them to come back so they have more continuity even in their care. So I'm glad. So for our next practices, right, it is continue what we said, right? Where are we going to give ourselves the daily medicine? Right? I have practices every day, Way of Mastery, the Course of Miracles, my meditation, my breath, journaling. These are the places that I feed me now. When I say yes and no, that's about how I, right? Yeah, it doesn't mean I'm always, but the majority of the time, it's because it's coming from love. Noticing our triggers with compassion, any places that we go, oh, this is a pattern. I will often speak to the pattern. I want to give you a tip that I use with the couples I coach. Sometimes we want to blame our parents. We want to blame ourselves, blame our partner, our spouse. Right? These are such core wounds or core areas of survival that have been generationally passed down. Right? It's easier on the heart when we think that's our pattern and name the pattern. It could be the labyrinth. It could be the two-step. It could be whatever you name it. So it's not, you're doing that to me again, that thing, versus, oh, we're locked in that pattern again. Let's get curious. What is it that is occurring? What are you interpreting of my action? What is that? When we do that, we're not you against me. We're us trying to understand. So I really would encourage you to have a different relationship with your patterns, one with compassion and curiosity. Okay. As I said in the notes or the chat, I gave you some links to affirmations. I love, if anyone here knows Louise Hay. Louise Hay is no longer with us. She's the Hay House publisher. It's a great book publishers, and they have oracle cards. But she's known, like her body of work was around doing affirmations in the mirror. Like every day, you can still see her on YouTube or, TikToks. They have her, her old fashioned, blonde hair. And they know one of hers is you look in the mirror every morning and look into your eyes. I love you, Claudine, and stay as long as you can tolerate it. And when I first started saying that, I couldn't tolerate it. I broke it with really quickly. And encourage to look people up like her. Louise Hay. The other woman, Lavendier, has different types of affirmations for inner child, for success, for growth and abundance. I think, right, we can hear that. If people believe in law of attraction, I'm big on Esther, Abraham and Hicks. It's really, what am I calling forth? What is the invitation I've given to the universe? Can I remove any resistance? Can I allow myself to receive it? Be in the receiving mode. Lifelong journey, the healing process. I would encourage you to continue also finding like-minded people, right? I have a new Facebook group, and I appreciate Claudia recently went in there and was like, hey, anybody want to connect? And I don't think anyone did, right? Because we are all seeking community. If I'm doing this work, if I'm breakthroughing, if I'm feeding myself a new dialogue, I want to be with people who are also in that, who see their divinity, who see the power of the Holy Spirit in their lives, or the power of breath work, of course. So I would also suggest that you find, I call it find your tribe, but find the people, right? Find people who speak to you, that you like, yeah, these are the people I want to be with. I was going to put something in the chat. Oh, there you go. So I'll put that here. If you'd like to join, please join. And I'm going to say journaling. Journaling is a place like meditation where we're just meeting ourselves. Right? I'm often, someone will say, this doesn't have to be complete sentences, doesn't have to be grammatically correct. It gets to be an authentic moment where you're witnessing yourself. When you're ready to take what's occurred in your system and put it out, say, here, this is my learning, this is what I have. I think it's a beautiful self-reflective practice. So I would really encourage people to be in some form of consistent reparenting, refilling the cup. As a therapist and coach, it is my responsibility to nurture me as the vessel so that I can be here. And it's not about my healing, my stuff. Like, what do I need to do to get here every session? And this is how we do in our relationships with ourselves, is by tending to it. That being said, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. And if we can go off mute and say one word that we're going to take away, we feel right now, anything that's inspired us, anything at all, just ask. Maybe that one word that we would say tonight that left us all with.
My favorite word in stuff like this is courage.
Ooh, I like that one, Hal. Thank you.
Grace.
Ooh, Grace. Oh, wow. Okay. Grace.
Oh.
Jennifer said inspired. Najeen said gratitude. I'm going to go with gratitude.
Take turns. Take a turn. Like when you had that, we're going to have to learn to take a different turn. Yeah.
Yep. I often say we're right. This is the familiar. We've been wired in doing this.
Right.
Right hand turns. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to do a left hand turn. And it's not going to feel natural, Kimberly. Stay with it. I have clients come back like, Floyd, that did not work. That was just like awful. It's like, yeah, of course, let's tweak it. But you're doing something different. You don't have a relationship, a familiarity with it. It's foreign to our system still.
Right.
Until we make it safe, consistent, it's going to feel like, what am I doing? So thank you, Kimberly. Right hand turns. Yeah. Yes. Right. So I thank everyone for being here this evening. I am always available. This is class 2 of 6. So we're now going to move into adulthood and relationships in the last 4 classes. So my expectation or my goal would be to talk about in adulthood, what is it in relationships, and definitely hitting into the erotic life, right? Our loving patterns follow us even into our sexual erotic energies. So for me, that will be it. If there's an area that you would like, please reach out. You have my contact information. You got that tonight as getting onto this call. Feel free to email or text me if there's a particular area you would like to explore in these next sessions. But I'll see you back here next month, right, on the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 7:30. So I want to thank everyone for their time this evening and for being here.